Hello, thank you for joining me on a new conversation on Keep Talking. And my guest today is the actor Tillotama Shome. Now, her expressive face and acting prowess have made her pretty synonymous with independent cinema. And in the last few years, or more recently, there's been a surge of memorable characters that she's playing in web series or the shows that you see on streaming services. It's easy to forget that she started her acting career almost 25 years ago. It took her a while, but she's here and she's made it on her own terms. Tillotama, what a delight. Thank you, first of all, for making time to talk to me on this very tiny, fledgling little YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you, Anuradha. And you've seen me from my early years in Bombay.
Yeah.
So it feels nice and feels very grown up to have this conversation with you. Thank you.
There's been a surge in the past few years. I think I messaged you once saying, my God, everywhere I think I'm seeing you and such memorable characters. It seems like people have discovered Tillotama Shome in the past 3, maybe 5 years.
I think the change began with Sir.
Yeah, I thought so.
And I think that was an experience for me for the first time where because it came on a streaming platform which is very popular, I felt the sheer number of people who reached out to me as a number that I can't respond back to because it was overwhelming and it kept on increasing. And that's when I realized that this film has really reached and we have reached homes that earlier we hadn't, you know.
So 2018 and Sir, would you say is that pivot?
I think so, and it came during the pandemic when one actually felt the least hopeful about the world in many ways. And so, like everything in my journey, I guess it has a rhythm of its own, and or you could say that it has its own mad design. That's when the world was shutting down is actually unknown to me. My career was beginning to take off, but I was deep in I had actually felt the furthest away from my career or the industry at that time because I was fully into caregiving for my mother, and I had the most amount of distance from what my own desires and my own dreams. And that's when it actually was fermenting. And by the time my mom was healthy enough for me to leave, I had a whole slate of work waiting for me.
Yeah.
Waiting for me just when I cared less.
About the work.
About the work.
Yeah.
Because I cared so much more about life in itself, you know. And I really don't, I'm not trying to be poetic or profound. It's just what happened. But I can't stop thinking about it. That, you know, you've heard me whine, complain about the dearth of work, what does one do, and that negative spillage, that cynicism that grows, everything got wiped out, you know, with just being able to be there with my family at a time. And I think value systems took a shift. And that's when the rewards were so glaring that I feel like my optimism in life has restored, you know, and it's taken a reset that I didn't even know I needed.
I found something you said to the Inlax Foundation, who gave you a scholarship, right?
Yes.
And I think they asked you, what advice do you have to offer young aspirants of the film and theatre industry? And this is what you said. Find your voice and your pace. Timing is key, not just in performance, but in life too. And each of us serve time differently. Each of us needs to figure out our own pace.
Yeah, and I do know that I have a propensity for the slower. I know I love it. I really enjoyed, because I was away from acting and the camera for so long, those 2.5, 3 years, that when I got back to it and I had 7 projects back to back, I've never had that luxury of
7 projects back to back. Yeah.
It's a and I know there's 7 because I kept counting. I was like, let's get up in the middle of the night. Can't be, right? Have I made it up? Oh, check. No, it's real. These dates are real. I have an agency that reps me. The contracts are real, the numbers are real. So it is something that I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it had never come before. But also, when the last of those 7 projects was Baksho Bondi. And ending that run with a fiercely independent film that I had been a part of for the last 5 years, 6 years.
And a film that you're a producer on.
That I'm a producer on, felt like a good place to pause and refresh again. You know?
Well, what do you mean pause and refresh? What is your slate looking like as we speak?
It's back to tabula rasa. There is nothing, and I feel very happy saying it. I don't feel any sense of lack of confidence that there's something wrong. A part of it was intentional because the projects that came my way were very bad. They were very, very badly written. The women characters were very badly written. And not that the men were written any better. And I just felt the gift that I got from all these projects, I would just undo it for myself by
saying yes to everything that came your way.
Yeah. And the moments of panic of, am I being too idealistic? I would just tell myself, then it served you well. No.
But you know, there's a trade-off. If you take most of what comes your way, you make the money which you need. We all need to earn our livelihoods. You also stay in the game, so you're noticed, people see you, each project leads to the next offer. When you say no for reasons that are artistic, for reasons that are about integrity or what you feel about your craft and your art, you're running a risk.
It's a double-edged sword, because I'll tell you, there is a project I did, I don't want to name it, which for me didn't meet certain standards, but I said it for the same reasons, that one needs to be practical. What it does rob you of, you get the money, what it does rob you of is hope. Because of the way of the working, you know, it's so not creative, it's human beings are not treated well, and that's a heavy price to pay for an independent artist, to lose hope, because it's really the only thing that keeps you going. Because nobody's career can be so perfect that they always get what they want. So more often you don't get what you want. What do you do with yourself in that time? How do you survive that time? It's your mental well-being. You know, and that is something that it's not a calculated thing. It's just that I feel like there's only so much fast food I can have without feeling sick. And I know my threshold for that. And I'm not at all, and I also realize the value of money. And I also don't take this very seriously anymore, what I'm doing, you know. So I can do something which doesn't tick all the boxes, and I enjoy doing it. But I can't do it very often. But when it's something that is unethical, I will not do it. Because I have the privilege of hindsight. I have the privilege of choice now.
Which is a great privilege, to be able to say no, to be able to pick and choose.
And yet, if I, at this time of my life, when I didn't do it, when I had nothing, to do it now feels just like, what are you doing?
Why do you think that your plate was so full post and up to this point in 2025? What do you think filmmakers, directors, writers, what do you think they started seeing in you as an actor? Because
I don't know. I only have heard from them that they really enjoyed Sir, and that the penetration of Sir as a film to 3-tier cities, etc., you know, numbers basically were good. So there was some glitch in the algorithm, and our film, you know, somehow entered the matrix, and this is what I hear. I really feel it's because of the grace that my parents have, and I gained so much, even though it looked like I was losing, by stepping out of Bombay and going into Calcutta for those 3 years, and taking care of them. I got taken care of in ways that
you were nourished in ways that you didn't expect perhaps at that time.
and also I also became a woman, you know, because I've lived my life like such a gypsy, doing entirely what I want to do. My parents have been so independent. I don't have children, and this was
parenting. You were parenting,
and this was a huge growing up.
And
it made me a certain kind of person. I also saw the darkness in me, the exhaustion, the fatigue, the anger, things that I have read about, seen in films and seen in women. Saw myself at the edge of insanity and sanity, you know, that negotiating that, and many things, many milestones. I encountered what I'd only heard of and seen in my friends and people: anxiety. What does it mean? Despair, and also and just COVID, the pandemic. There was a sense of universal suffering,
and vulnerability, right?
And
your mortality,
all
of it is
was so
front and center.
So to fight cancer, which is already such a big thing, in that context, it was like all bets were off, and it was like the skin was peeled off, you know, and there was new skin that had to grow. But until it grew, you felt everything. You felt everything much more than you wanted to, much more than you had bargained for, and those were years where I think a new self was fighting to be created, and it was very painful, and often it felt like I was making very little progress as a human being, because I felt like I was always short of what I wanted to be, you know, and I think it was a very, I think perhaps a very big growth spot. And I think that's what attracted the work. I feel that. I was very candid with all the people I worked during that time. That I have Thursdays, alternate Thursdays, where I have, you know, I have to take a parent for chemo. I am the signatory. The hospital will call me even if I'm away. I'd rather not work on that day unless you can't help it at all. And if you can't help it at all, you'll have to free me by 2 o'clock so that I can, you know, these are my vulnerabilities. Then when my perimenopause was kicked, because of this immense amount of stress, I can't work those long hours. I think 12 hours is really stretching it.
So, you know,
and these are things I would never have said to a director before, thinking that I would just lessen my chances.
And also these are things no one says, right?
No one
acknowledges that they are 45, 54. You know, no one acknowledges these
and it was
things,
so
right?
freeing, because I had nothing to lose. Because I was like, I had nothing to lose. If you don't work with me, I will go back and spend time with my parents. This is a very precious time in my life. And I have no lack of confidence that I will come back to acting when I need to.
And were you pleasantly surprised with the way people reacted?
And there are many people say we can't contractually write that, you know, you can work for less than 12 hours a day. But we'll make sure. We'll do our best. And they did.
That's wonderful to hear.
And it were not just the women-led or women were making those films, you know. There were men who totally understood, who I could be totally about my body, my sudden hot flashes, my loss of energy, how I need to exercise every morning before shoot so that I can uphold the posture of the character. You know, small things which I felt, and there was such a sense of joy in being so transparent, in being able to be a team player,
not have to be sort of apologetic about all this that's going on, right? And there's a lot going on. I don't think people get it, but there's a lot going on for women and for people
in the characters you're playing. So if you want that richness, you want the complexity
then
of a woman in her mid-40s, you want that lived experience which doesn't come, you know, without having lived it. You know.
We see this outlook in her latest film Baksho Bondi, a Bengali film that premiered at the Berlin Festival. Tillotama's Maya, who has married for love, finds herself years later honoring that love with a fierce tenacity and tenderness. It's a dazzling display of her acting prowess.
What drew you to Baksho Bondi? What made you become a producer? What's the story behind this latest work of yours, which you just took to the Berlin Festival?
Yes, yeah, we had our world premiere at Berlin, and it's really amazing because one of the directors of the film, Soumyananda, went there when he was 17 at the Berlinale Talent Campus, and again, it's a testimony to time. You know, that it takes time to really nurture something. And we met in July of 2019. That's when I read the first draft of the script, and I was really, I knew that this is a very personal script. It's a really lived script. It's coming from a very personal space. I didn't know them at all as human beings, so it was not that I could validate my intuition, but I knew that, and they'd only asked me for script feedback, not as an actor. So the few things that didn't work for me, I was very candid about it because I felt so deeply for the script. And it was because I was so, because I wasn't being offered the part as an actor, I could be very candid. And it was very smart of them, I think. They wanted me as an actor, but they didn't
tell you that.
Tell me that. So I could really share very openly what I loved and what I didn't like. And that's when this, asked me to be a part of it. And when I met both of them, it became very, very clear that the journey that started with taking care of my parents, becoming a caregiver, that what I valued the most was people who could inspire me. I have natural tendency to overthink, to get have depressive tendencies, even though I've never sunk into a depression, because it's just, but it's something I'm aware of, that that I've naturally always valued people who I can journey with, who I can learn from. And it was very, like with Anup, I knew that beyond Kissa, I need his friendship. And there are many things I can learn from him that will make me happy. And I felt that similar thing with Somo and Tanushree, that here are people I'd like to walk the long journey with.
What did it mean for you to become the producer? And there are so many producers and so many different people had to come together to make this film
but
a
initially
reality.
It was just very few of us, right? And it was just about being able to communicate to them that I don't want to just be an actor on this. But it meant, please send me every draft. Please, how much are we trying to raise for the film? What's our budget? How are we making the budget? How are we making the schedule? I want to understand everything. And I really, because I wanted to learn from them. And I know that it's their first film. But the kind of people they are, I felt like I want to learn from them. And the humanistic way in which the film schedule was made, the hours that the team worked, because they're parents, they're, they have a child. How do you have a lunch hour where, how do you spend time with your child and shoot a film? These were things that often we are asked to make a choice. That you're not professional enough if you care for your family. Or if you want to have a balanced work and family life, then you must certainly not be ambitious. Right? These are things that one has resisted so strongly and has such a, like, your bile rises, to think that that is the price I have to pay for my success.
And it's something you believe for a very long time, right? You believe that for a very long time, that these are some of the things that you have to do in order to be seen as wanting to be successful, wanting to be counted, right, as a player, as being out there. Are we getting to see it, or is it going to go on the festival circuit for some time? I
think that's the journey. We have enough producers on this who come in with their own expertise, with Shaunak Aman, with the festival journey, with Nikhil, Vikram, with the distribution. So I feel like we're in very good hands. No one has any agenda but the well-being of the film.
How lovely. But with all of you coming together, did it make the journey of the film making process easier? Has it become easier for the filmmakers?
Yeah, because they didn't come in as just financiers. They came in at crucial points in this during the journey of the film. Some came on during the script development phase. Some came on during the shoot. And most people came on after the film was over. Because it was very important for Naren that the film was made exactly the way Somu and Tanushree wanted to make it. And the people who joined were people that Somu Tanushree had worked with, who just loved them as human beings. They told other people, but anytime anyone came in, everyone else, there was a check-in. How do you feel about this person coming in? It was really done in a way that you would think in today's world is idealistic, but actually I think it's very pragmatic and it's a very democratic way to work because making a film is very expensive.
Expensive, difficult, and clearly now a big gamble because nothing seems to stick.
So when you can share the risk, and you have a greater appetite then to take risks, when it's shared.
Tell me some of the work that you found interesting in the past few years. Patal Lok season 2, Meghna Barua's character really, I think, stood out for a lot of people.
Yes.
You want to talk about that? Also, I think you had a very good experience shooting it.
It's a really incredible team, and it flows down from Sudeep and Avinash and every department HOD. Like, I would go on set to just watch them work, even on days that I was not working, because I knew they were not just people who were on the top of their game and their craft and technique, but they also work very well together. And it was something I wanted to observe because one wants to replicate it, because I knew I was going into shooting Baksho Bondi right after. They were very aware. When I signed on Patal Lok, I told them this is my exit date. And they're like, we need some flexibility. I said, there's no flexibility. And why? I said, because of this film. And when they heard who are the people who are making this film, Avinash has great regards for Somo. One director of photography for another. And it became like they adopted Baksho Bondi like as if it was their film. Like
in terms of the scheduling for you.
In terms of scheduling, it was like I was made to feel like as if this was the most important. Her shoot has to get done because we cannot delay their shoot.
So tell us about this character that you played and how that felt.
So I feel like there's a certain thing that happened after those years of stepping away from it all, and because of what I went through, I got to play women that are morally ambiguous. It was a pleasure playing women whose interiority existed very strongly, but didn't have to all be explained. The writing was such, the directors were such, that the complexity or the what makes those characters come alive and people feel that they know them is because not everything is told about them, and there's a sparseness in the writing which allows an actor to interpret it and fill it up with themselves, but fill it up just as much so that the audience is also who watches the film can also now fill it up with their experiences, and I think this way I see that in, like, for instance, in Meghna Barua, she is Assamese, but she works in Nagaland, whose husband has passed away. There's very little clues, like clues, it's all there. She has a child. She's obviously working in a very patriarchal setup. She doesn't have the confidence of her own team members. But it's not a lecture. A lecture is not given on how terrible things are for women. You know, it's at the most it's one line and a throwaway line. I know it's hard to take orders from a woman, but get used to it. You know.
How do you say yes to roles when you see them taking this as an illustration?
It's so easy. You don't even have to finish reading it because you already know that the moment the character is introduced, the way the character is introduced, that okay, this is a mature representation of a grown-up woman, you know, a professional woman, and when you see, you smell it immediately. And that it's so rare that the moment you sniff it, it's like you're waiting. That I just hope, sense of foreboding, that don't mess it up. Please don't mess it up by like neatly tying it up with a, walk into the sunset kind of thing. And by the time you finish, you're like, okay, quickly call and say yes, and quickly tell them that you are there for the long haul.
So out of some of these projects that we've seen you in, is there any role that stuck out to you, especially?
All of them. Because for me, like for instance, the police procedural of Meghna's character, the choice to not have a uniform, that you can wield power without having the signifiers of it on your body. These are very interesting choices for me. Without me being in a uniform, I loved these things. I loved these choices that Sudeep made. I loved that. I know he's very well respected, but there was a reading session that we had, the first reading session, and because they're all so tight, and I was a newcomer in the, so I was quite nervous that it was a very long table, and in between my lines, and I was doing my embroidery, and it calms me down. Now it's not something I would have done earlier in my life, thinking this would indicate that I'm not
paying attention.
What will they think about me? I don't care what they think about me
anymore.
I know right now that in order for me to not be anxious in such a large room, this would really help me. And I'm not here to perform the lines. They've already trusted me with this part. So I'm here to, it's just a reading. I asked many times, it's just a reading, right? So, and that's when the embroidery, then Deep said, why don't we have this? Sudeep said, but where? It's such a tight script. I said, I'll think about where. And then, when I, and how it all worked out, how they, it just felt like, it really felt like a, because also for me what was new, and I think one of the new things with Tribhuvan and Patal Lok and Last Stories that I realized was having a writer as your showrunner on set
makes a big difference.
Huge difference. Because when a scene is sometimes not working, it's sometimes a line that's just, and Sudeep would just come and change a punctuation, a word, throw this word out. I don't know, it's just not, and then the scene flows. To be able to rewrite something on the fly.
So this is something I notice about you, and I saw a little bit of that in Last Stories too, in that story that Konkona directed. There's a physicality in your performance, you're not just using the face and the eyes and your expressions, which is what people look at for emotional expression, right? You seem to use your entire body. It's your posture, it's the way you're holding your shoulders, it's what you're doing. Where is that coming from? Is that something you've learned? Is that something that you're aware of that you're doing?
I think it's.
Are you conscious of this?
No, I don't think so, because I'm not thinking of what I have to do. I am only in the situation that it has been already written for me, and the better written it is, you just have to be in the situation and respond without making any pre-decisions about how you're going to play it. You have to just respond. It's completely spontaneous in that sense. But you prepare, but as a theory. When you read the script again and again and imagine, but once you're actually in a real place, in a real location with real actors and co-interpreters of a scene, then you just have to respond. And in the way I observe life or people, I feel like it's never just their face. Their face could hide many things, that I'm doing fine, I'm doing fine. The way my mother would be brave and strong so that we could hold ourselves, how the rest of the body is carrying that strain. You see it in people. I'm not an actor who's used to seeing myself while performing. Maybe because that's the rule Mira had set, and because she never allowed any actors to come
and see the monitor.
And she felt that they got conscious about how they were looking rather than the scene itself. And it's just something that when I'd asked her, why do you not let actors? And she said it made so much sense to me. That's something I stuck with. And even though of course you grow older and you're taken more seriously as an actor, you're invited to see the playback, and I've usually refused unless it's an action continuity, like an action sequence where it really needs to be repeated. I would prefer that the action director tell me what I did, because I don't want to actually see myself how it looks, what I'm doing. You know, because when you're in it, you're not seeing yourself, right? And it's very freeing. So maybe
and it's also that you've given up so much control, right? When you might want to assert it in some fashion, in some way.
Or suddenly feel like, oh, this profile I'm not looking good. After all, I'm a human being. We're all vulnerable, vain, and you know, look at ourselves. Oh, my teeth are looking so yellow.
But do you feel that this stands you in good stead? The fact that you're not worried about how you're looking and whether you're looking in quotes pretty or not.
I have heard in the way I've been cast, you know, that that you know, you need someone really beautiful for this part. But for like some of the people who cast me in the last few years, they found me beautiful. And I find myself beautiful. I've always found myself beautiful. I've never felt ugly, you know. So I suffered when I was not considered for the characters whose description was this beautiful woman. That was not how my characters were described, you know. But for Coco, it was very important that in Lust Stories that I look amazing, and that my own personal sense of style, which she loves about me, things that I love about her sense of style, and the clothes that we share from our wardrobes as friends, you know, that what we find very sexy, we'll put in the film that we are making, because we find each other so sexy, you know. And so much was made about me not playing the maid in that, that sometimes I felt like it took a friend, it took a girlfriend to see me.
But even in Death in the Gun,
even that, it was very important for
how
her.
stylish
It was very important.
You know, sophisticated
but it was
that
how
whole
a
look
friend
was.
looks at me.
You
know, and I felt that it was very important. The next time I felt that was with Sudeep. That I really want her to look good. And I just feel that the uniform, no. I think you look better in a blazer and jeans and another, so you don't want me to be the frumpy cop. Like, no, I don't want you to be the frumpy cop, you know. And it felt good. It felt good that that there were at least a few people
who saw you the way you saw yourself. No?
Yeah, and that felt
but
nice.
It takes some doing, you know, because we've all grown up watching images, watching imagery that sometimes it just, you know, box people in, right? Or box genders in, box people in. And it's, I mean, I'm not an actor, but it's not been very, it took me some time to understand that I was not fair, I wasn't looked a certain way, you know, and I'm here.
But you don't have to be an actor to be made to feel bad
that's true.
about the way you look. I don't think it's a thing about actors, it's a thing about
anybody and any woman,
you know, it's how society makes you feel that you are not mainstream. Beautiful. But depending on who you're surrounded by and the people in your lives who are like, what? I find you really hot. And you know you are hot. And you know, and you're like, oh, you guys will have to catch up. We already know. You know, and that's a great feeling. That, finally you guys are catching up, and you know. And it's not the other way around. It's not that I have developed some great confidence and hence I feel beautiful. You know, and hence now you can see me as I've suffered on account of not being you know, I have to tell the truth, that people didn't find me, and people who I thought were progressive, but I feel like they are carrying the same baggage. The baggage of you know, but it's okay. I do think that I am also a certain kind of person whose growth is so slow that the naked eye really can't see it. You need glasses, or you need time. You know, like it's like the milk that never boils when you keep looking at it. But my, the latent heat in me exists, and it increases, and there'll be a certain tipping point where I will manage to seduce you or catch your attention and be like, "Are she's not that bad looking yet, maybe, or." She can do this part.
This resonates a lot, but I don't want to add on to this because this is your story today. Yeah, I have some understanding of what you're saying.
I think we all do.
Actually, everybody does.
Everyone does.
Everybody does. Yeah. It's quite interesting.
It's the way the men or the women in their lives have made them feel.
Yeah.
You don't forget these things.
Yeah. It's embedded deep into you.
It's embedded deep. And it's just that when we exfoliate ourselves or are forced to exfoliate because of circumstances in our life, and we really see ourselves and we are tired of being apologetic. All of us have experienced that. That's when, then what comes... it's like a shedding your skin in a way, and it's nice. It's freeing. I mean, I don't know about independent cinema, but it's nice to feel independent as a person,
and
that I'm allowed to have the thoughts I have.
Not having to be in a box of any kind.
Yeah. But it's the same person who wanted to be in a box also at a certain time, that who complained about why I'm not getting, why am I not, but then also resisted from. I don't know that. I guess it's the upbringing, it's the people in your life. When I was thought my teeth are crooked, I should fix it, or when I was told, to enhance my nose or my breast. So it just felt, I didn't have the language for it that I do now. That these incremental changes, what I did feel was that.
But you were told this frequently?
I was told this by a few casting, two casting directors, and it was done. One was not done very nicely. The other one was done very nicely. That as an actress, think about it. You have a beautiful smile. Maybe if you can just straighten, or there's so many things. And I really thought about it because. The second one I thought about it more because it was said so nicely, and it didn't feel like it was coming from a bad place. And I thought about it. If I have a set of perfect teeth, it would look really good on camera, but it would also then disallow me from playing women who don't have perfect teeth. And if the character has perfect teeth, I can do that. As makeup.
I've heard things like if you're over 25, your career's over in the movie business. Everybody's beginning to look a certain way, and I don't know whether it's the styling and the makeup or whether people are actually going under the knife to conform to certain things. I don't know either. I'm just saying these are observations, right? The question is that it's not easy to sort of withstand this, right? Because your goal is something like the second casting director who you said it nicely, is like that the employer in Baksho Bondi who's telling
to have a cup of tea.
no, not just a cup of tea, where she says, this is an expensive coaching class
for the son. Yes.
And she's very well meaning. And she comes to it from a pragmatic understanding. Don't send your son to this coaching class.
It's the cruelty of good people, the casual cruelty of good people.
And it's all actually well intentioned because it's a waste of your money. Let him learn a skill. Right? So when there is all of this, how difficult is it to withstand?
I think it's more difficult for me to go through wearing something which will give me a headache, and it's very painful. And for me that is far more difficult, and I think I have a propensity to take the easy way. I'm being Bengali, and lazy.
It's my birthright.
It's my birthright, and for me it's always been the easier way. It's never been I'm taking the road less travelled. It's much easier, to be who you are. How can it not? It's not the difficult choice.
We began with time, and time moves on. If you're looking at a blank slate now, what would you like to fill it up with? How do you imagine it being filled up?
I haven't had the courage to write, even though I've enjoyed reading amazing scripts, and I have allergic reactions to certain kind of writing, and I have tremendously inspired by certain kind of writing. So I do know that I have a sense of what I like and what I don't like, and so it's something I want to understand if I even have it in me to write. And that is something I'd like to seriously fill my time with, and it also blunts the sharp need to be acting all the time. I like the idea of taking whether they're forced breaks because the industry is going through a turmoil, which would cause me a tremendous sense of panic had this been 10 years ago or 7 years ago.
But
now
not
I
now.
see it as an opportunity to learn something new, so that when I come back, because we'll always tell stories, I know that, and I want to act like, I find it very exciting to think of what my body can do in its 50s, what she'll do in her 60s and 70s, what kind of stories will we tell? We'll have to write those stories, you know. So I'm revisiting a script that my friend and I had written when we were in our 30s about a 40-year-old person. So when we revisited, we were like, now we are in our 40s. This is the time for us to, you know, really look at it and be like, oh, so this is also childish, but there's something here. So, you know, these things now excite me a lot, that I have much to learn, and many things I haven't tried, so I don't have to panic about what to do with
That's lovely
my
to
free
hear.
time.
That is lovely to hear and inspiring, you know, for anybody who's, I mean, we're living in tumultuous times, right?
We're all pivoting now.
Everyone's pivoting, everyone's rediscovering, everyone's nervous, there's so much anxiety. So this is lovely to hear. You know, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And I hope people get to see Baksho Bondi soon.
Yes, they will.
Because it's quite a lovely film. I don't want to say any more because, you know, you can't discuss it when people don't know so much about it. Because they haven't seen it. But
you know, there was a universal experience to the film which I experienced in Berlin. I sat in, I think that's what we miss, seeing a film in a theatre. I realized it's, you know, because they were always packed full. We had 5 screenings and people stayed back for Q&A, even if it was 1 o'clock in the night.
Lovely.
And it's a working day. And but one of my most beautiful experiences was sitting and watching the film, and a row of friends, women who had come, they were friends, like, and they're sitting together. When Maya's character says, you know, that when her son says, I've already eaten and come.
But I have to.
She said, but I have to eat.
I'm human.
I'm human. Amyo to manush. The row of women, the sounds they made. And they were all looking at each other like, and I just felt like, oh my God. You know, the shared fatigue of the invisible labor of women is a universal experience.
Absolutely.
And the film spoke to that. The film, and it was so nice to share that with women, not just from my country, but women from other countries, wondering about what is it that made them, that guttural sound that came out. Were they caregivers? Are they caregivers? Has it ended for them? Are they able to make time? You know, like, it's really big. You felt the kinship. And that's what I felt when I read the film, that I felt a sense of kinship to the makers that I have, you know.
I hope we get to see it.
I hope so too.
And did you, these lovely images, I don't know if we managed to get it, but this is you. Ready to take off, ready to jump, ready to swoop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, we managed
so
to get this conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you.